Good evening, everyone. I'll call the regular City Prescott Council meeting to order. It's Monday, April 8th at 6 o'clock. I'll do a roll call. Bailey?
Here.
Maureen?
Here.
Pat?
Here.
Dar?
Here.
Lindsay?
Here.
And John is excused. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, this time I will entertain public comments. Council will receive public comments on any issue related to the agenda. Limited discussion by the city council may take place. So if anyone who wants to talk about any of the resolutions, do it now, not during when we're doing the resolutions. Tell us who you are and where you live and what you want to talk about.
My name is Steve Burke. I live in the city of Prescott. I also own a business in town. I find it funny how the city council wants to go through and do all sorts of improvements down along the riverfront. Some sidewalks that are probably never going to get used or used very little, according to some people that I've talked to. That somebody from Freedom Park that claims that the age group of the people that use Freedom Park are probably not going to use sidewalks. At least the sidewalk from downtown up to Freedom Park, anywhere near as much as what you people think it's going to get used. Taxes are going up in this town, as we just seen the water bills, 18% in 2025, 30% in 2026. I'm sure that our taxes are going to be falling right behind that. We need to figure out a way to kind of control costs. And yes, I know that we get grants from the state of Wisconsin. That's still tax money. It's coming from the people. It's not government money, it's not free money. I noticed in the agenda that there was a property owner that didn't want to negotiate for some property down along one of the sidewalks. Does anybody want to go and tell me what that property is or what the address is?
It's your property, isn't it? Is it one of your rental properties?
Okay. I never said I didn't want to negotiate. I says I wasn't going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And at that time, that was, hey, where it is and where it's at.
Yeah.
No one ever approached me after that, and we never had any discussion, so there was never any negotiating. So,
Did you want to? It didn't seem like it.
well, would you want to have people walking by 6 feet from your bedroom
We're
window?
not putting the sidewalk because you're not willing, we're not putting the sidewalk there. They're going in the street for that section.
So then you're taking parking away, which we have a parking issue in this town.
We already have bike lanes there technically for the DOT.
Correct, there's a bike lane there, there's also a parking lane there. So what is it? You're trying
we
to
don't-
split hairs here, Bailey.
I'm not, because we don't have a parking issue, right? Because we just said that we don't need parking to be monitored. That was the big thing regarding the parking
Well, I
thing.
thought, the city council thought we needed to have parking monitored.
I sure did.
It was an
I
idea.
I sure did.
It was an idea that we thought would be a good idea to maybe,
And we did that because we know that we have people that are parking basically for like long-term parking downtown in that prime spot where we want people to be able to come and visit.
There's hardly anybody
But-
ever parked up on that end, and you guys wanted to go and make that paid parking all the way up past my rental.
So what is your concern? Let's get down to the point of it. What is your concern right now?
So,
Other than the taxes, so the grant money, I can't control the state. We're still gonna go for grants all day, every day. I agree that
And
the
you
state
go-
is
you-
irresponsible in a
you-
lot of levels.
you get a grant,
But-
you go and add something to the city, and who ends up paying for that to maintain it? The city residents do.
So I just want to address one thing really quick. So we talked about, you brought up one fact where we're talking about the water bill, right? So the water bill was increased because the water has to pay for water projects, so street projects. Street projects, kind of a non-negotiable. Like, we can't have bad pipes, or I know that we had crushed ones at one point. I don't know if that's the current state of everything, but we know our roads are in disrepair. So when we don't have money in that water fund to pay for the water piece of it, then you are seeing when we go out and having to bond for things. Roads are kind of like a non-negotiable. If there's park projects that are coming up where we're saying, okay, there's either a DOT project coming or something like that, how can we negotiate with the DOT to try and see what we can do to optimize our sidewalks? Like, a part of that DOT project that you're talking about, where we're going up that way, it's also going up by Patax.
I know that.
So that walkway across the street is basically having to be put into that project as well. We've tried to negotiate with them on different ways to do that project, but we're being held to a finance contract, which, first of all, I've been appalled about that the DOT is even able to do this, because it's not in a state statute or whatever. It's basically just a guideline for them to make a sign for all these projects. No city can basically take on the maintenance agreement that's within there. So I want to make sure that we're separating what you're saying, because the water bill went up because we don't have money to fund water projects.
And
That is separate from what taxpayer money goes to for parks and public property. During the budget meeting, we didn't really have a budget when I first started here 6 years ago for parks. Now we've actually started basically putting money into park stuff so we can maintain what we have. Right, that's why, we sold the post office building for $1, right? Because the roof needed to be redone. The cost was gargantuous. We're trying to basically get better at putting money aside to maintain and do preventative maintenance. So parks budget never really had anything before. The riverfront project, we have TIF money, and we also have the grant money, and I don't know, because today is my last day on this committee, is how we're gonna basically look at the rest of it. I know we've discussed that at some point in time, but I'm not remembering off the top of my head. So, I know where you're coming from. I know you don't want the sidewalk right in front of your property, I understand that. If the parking space is an issue, just come to the parks meeting and start having conversations with that group, and then we can start working with you on it. But to combine everything that you're saying right now, I get where you're coming from, because I'm one of the first people I do not like talking about increasing taxes. I don't like talking about how assessments for the state were required to go up to 90% of what the value of a home is. That's not me. That's our state. I'm pissed at the state just as much as you are, because I think they're ridiculous in a lot of the rules. So that's basically what I wanted to address. Is so if you have issues with the sidewalk going up, we have a maintenance agreement. I mean, we're just getting screwed just as much on the maintenance agreement piece of things. And we also have a retaining wall we need to address that is out by Miss Croy Marina, the big retaining wall that we have there.
Yep.
But just come to parks. Just come to parks and talk about it. We can figure it out.
Either that or we need to put it
Yeah.
on as an agenda item,
Exactly.
because this was supposed to be limited discussion, so if you have any other points to make sure you can, otherwise we're gonna move on.
That's all I got right now.
Okay, but if you'd like, come to the Parks Committee, that's where,
Since January 1, I've got over 1,000 hours of, got my normal employer in already this year.
Amen. That's why I'm done.
I have not had time.
okay?
I would love to
Anybody
get to
else
these-
have
I would love to get to these every week, or every month when they are having them, but
So just for awareness, just to share, we do have this being streamed on YouTube, so you can go back and watch any of these that you want. You can comment on them. The YouTube comments, I believe, are not turned off. So just as awareness, yeah, I just got a thumbs up that yes, we are streaming everything. So if you miss one and you want to go back and watch it, they are available on YouTube.
Any other public comments? Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Parks and Public Works Committee minutes from March 25th, City Council minutes from March 25th, Planning Commission minutes from April 1st, General Fund balances from March, cash balances for March, paid invoices from March, and approving the agreement with Asphalt Plus for parking along Dakota Street.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Marie.
I have just two quick questions. The repair of the fireboat on page 11, on the invoice report, I didn't know we had a fireboat.
It's cool. isn't it?
So,
It's a little-
I was just curious about that. Do we keep it down on the river?
I believe it's at St. Croix Point.
It's stationed, I believe, at Miss Croy during the summer months. There's a spot for it, and then in the winter, I don't recall where we keep
I
it,
actually
but
saved a
we
person
winterize it
last year that my
somewhere.
dad got on video using that boat.
Oh.
That was circling around somebody that didn't have the emergency thing on, so the boat was circling them. They were able to rescue him with that boat.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and then on page 12, the compost site for grinding. And I know we discussed at one time whether or not to buy our own grinder for the compost site. And I wondered, how often do we have that done?
We have it done once a year. If you recall, we used to burn our compost waste, but we got, DNR came to us and said that we couldn't do that anymore unless we did we'd have to go through a whole environmental study, and that would have been quite a cost. And then additionally, there was no guarantee that we would get approval for that, because the issue was with the smoke that was being generated from all the wood and things down there was going into residents surrounding, so that was the problem. So we moved to grinding, and we do that once a year at before the compost site opens.
Is it compost that's good enough for gardens, or is it too
It's
much
like wood
pine?
chips. I think
The
it's a lot
chips
of
down
wood
there can
chips.
be, any residents or anybody who has a permit down there can take wood chips that are down there. They're not quite, they're good enough for gardens. We can't use them in parks because they do have some rougher edges that we wouldn't want people to cut things and things like that fall,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
overall they
Okay.
could be used in gardens, I should say.
And we did look at buying one, and the cost of one that we need for the sides was astronomical.
was silly.
And we, as a council, go with the reason why this time is all the cut down on the snowstorm that we had in April, took a lot of trees and a lot of
That's right.
limbs, so
Yeah.
we had like times what we normally.
Thanks,
last year.
Mayor.
Other questions on the agenda? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Reports of standing committees and commissions. Have anything for the Finance Committee, Planning Commission report? Matt, you want to take that?
Sure. So a number, actually, all the things that we talked about at Planning Commission are on the agenda tonight, but we had a public hearing for 3 different ordinances reviewed. One is for small box discount stores, which similar to what we've done in the past with other public health and safety things, basically would be one of small box discount retail stores within the community. Second one was for a correction to 635-2 regarding minimum yards for C1 district. It would basically set the setback to rear yard to 0 feet. If it was a fireproof construction, it'd be 10 foot if it was non-fireproof construction. And then the last one was just a correction for the number of stalls. When we did the large zoning code review and change, left out a sentence that had basically that C1 zoning did not have to meet the parking requirements that were parked within as part of our zoning code. So those are the 3 ordinances that will be before you tonight for the first reading. And that's all that was covered at the commission.
Okay, thank you. Next meeting is Monday, May 6th at 6 o'clock. Parks and Public Works, next meeting, Monday, May 20th at 5 o'clock. Health and Safety, Monday, May 13th at 5 o'clock. Personnel, Wednesday, May 1st at 5 o'clock. Those all still good times and dates? Okay. Next item on the agenda is communications and new business. The council received public comments on any issue not related to agenda. Limited discussion by the council may. However, no action will be taken on any item. This includes receiving written requests or documentation and possible action at a future meeting.
I just had a question, just curious where we were with the Sears Park as far as having it, the packet ready for promotion, or any progress or any?
So we're certified through the Xcel Energy Site Certification Program. We also are going through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for certification as well. We have most of that buttoned up, and we're just finishing up a few things before the state of Wisconsin's able to give us the full certification through that. We've had a number of parties interested, and we've had other requests for proposals come through. I think we've discussed it, but our biggest limiting factor at the Sears Business Park is our sewer treatment plant and the capacity that it has. So that is one thing that we are going to have
the
to,
folks who could use that space.
especially high water users who have been cycle that water through and distribute into the sewer system. There's just a capacity that we have to kind of look at
Right.
and start to plan for in terms of expanding our treatment plant.
Unless on water treatment plant, like, I don't know, I know we have that at my work, but,
Yeah, if we're talking that size and they're willing to do something like that, that would
Okay.
be some sort of special agreement that we'd have to enter into and work with the DNR on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance 01-24 to repeal and replace chapter 443, article 1, junked vehicles and appliances, second reading. Dory, you want to take that?
Yep, this is the second reading, updating our ordinance to include for both residential and commercial properties, basically anything that is unsheltered, uncovered, that is a junked vehicle or appliance, will be, violating city code, and we would be enforcing it with violation, penalties, so, notice and citation, so it'd start with the notice first, and then citations would follow after not notifying the city or removing it within 30 days.
Okay,
I would motion to approve ordinance 01-24 to repeal and replace chapter 443 in the second reading.
Second?
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of ordinance 01-24. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Just for clarification, Mayor, are we saying we're waiving the third reading
No.
and fully approving it, or you want it to come
No,
back for a third?
second reading only.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is resolution 15-24, awarding the bid for the treatment of well number 3 to Market and Johnson, an amount of $3,045,000. Matt, you want to take that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this project we've been working on since September of 2021, when we initially got the notification and the test that we exceeded our nitrate levels at well 3. Since that time, we've had well 3 shut off. I won't go over the whole project because we did that when we approved the bid or going out to bid, but basically we got notification from the DNR. We did receive a loan approval through the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program to cover that. Of that, about 1.9, almost 2 million is approved for principal forgiveness or a grant. We went out to bid. We got 4 bids. The lowest bid came back at $3,045,000 before you tonight. So what that means is essentially in the resolution, what you'll have before you is this would be coming out of the water fund. We did discuss, obviously, the water fund is the one fund of our overall that's not, I guess, to a point where it can take on all the different projects we've looking at, and that's one of the reasons that we're working with Ellers to complete the water study and the water rate study, specifically through the Public Service Commission. With that being the case, what's happening in the resolution, if you approved it tonight for this lowest bid, the water funds would cover the costs until we receive those. That Safe Drinking Water loan proceeds, we begin working on that now that we have the lowest bid, and that paperwork would be coming to council. And what we're asking for you as part of that resolution is for the temporary, if we have to cover costs in advance of the money that we have within the water fund that we're temporarily covering those costs, or the sewer fund, and then paying that and reimbursing that fund once we do get the Safe Drinking Water loan funds and fully approved and have those. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
I would motion to approve resolution 15-24 awarding the bid for the treatment of well 3 and then allowing the substation of using the funds from sewer and paying it back if needed.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 1524, awarding the bid for well number 3 to Market and Johnson for $3,045,000. Is there any discussion on the motion? Now we'll do a roll call. Lindsay?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Dar?
Aye.
Pat?
All right,
Maureen?
Aye.
Bailey?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda, Resolution 16-24, approving the contract for professional services by CBS Squared for construction administration for well number 3 treatment project.
Thank you, Mayor. So similar to what we do for Elman, Washington and all the various other projects that we do, we always have a construction administration or oversight. It's usually done by the engineer who's done and handled the design. So what's before you tonight is that from CBS Squared. This does fit within what was approved as part of the DNR submittal to the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program and does match that in terms of what was originally planned before you. The agreement is for 300, and I'm sorry, I'm missing it here on the slide. $301,829 to administrate the construction administration services for this project over the next year. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for professional services by CBS Squared to construction administration for well number 3 treatment project.
I'll second that.
Wait, I'm
we have-
sorry, did I do the wrong item?
No.
No, I didn't.
You're all right. We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 16-24, approving the contract for professional service by CBS Squared for administration for well number 3 treatment project. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Are you gonna have somebody present when we have contractors on site? A project manager?
Yeah, so it's called resident project representative, and that's through our company, yep.
Okay, so they'll be there when we have contractors on site. Okay.
Yeah, with discussion with the city, it's,
Could you come up here to the mic so everybody at home can hear you, please?
is this from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so it's called resident project representative, and we'll discuss with the city as we go through and with the Public Works Department on if they want us on site for certain things, but in general, yeah, that's the plan, would be to be on site when work is being done.
So we're paying for transportation mileage, we're paying for lodging?
It depends on, I have,
Because that was the one question I had. I'm like, with our current engineers, like, I don't think we're paying for lodging or any of these kind of activities, so that's where I had some questions.
one second, if you don't mind. Hey, John.
Yes.
Could you answer the question on if this $301 amount includes lodging and mileage?
Yes, it is a not to exceed cost, so it includes time, labor, and expenses.
Do we usually do that for Cedar Corp?
For lodging. John, is there going to be actual lodging that's going to be paid as part of this?
I don't anticipate lodging, but if we have to do that would have to be covered in our agreement.
So I don't think we've ever done that with Cedar Corporation, but per this, there's unlikely that we'd be paying for lodging, but I'm assuming it's a standard agreement that CBS Squared has, that just in case they do, they have it in the agreement.
And then regarding the sales tax and use tax being levied on the professional services and reimbursement of expenses, is that typical?
This is the first agreement we've had with CBS Squared, so I'm going to say,
Just in your experience and generalities, because I know you're at Cottage Grove before, so when you've seen contracts come through, is that normal?
yeah, so generally every engineering firm has a standard agreement that they put together to cover it so that they don't have to come back and say, well, we have to have such and such person on site for a day or 2 days to look because the construction crew is going to work till 10 p.m. this day to try to get this wrapped up before the weekend. So we're gonna have our engineers stay on site the whole time, and we don't want, there's, basically, these agreements are built in for, these very potential specific situations that they may or may not have to cover.
Okay. I would ask, did you guys say not exceed?
I did not say not exceed.
To not exceed, and then anything else would require a change order?
And I think that's what he said,
Yeah.
not exceed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, I just haven't seen it laid out like that in a contract before.
Any other discussion on the motion? Not, we'll do a roll call on that. Bailey?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Dar?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried, thank you. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 17-24, awarding the bid for the 2024 Mill and Overlay Project to Monarch Paving Company in the amount of $235,624.40. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry. I zoned off a little bit.
Cut me in suspense. So, a little bit of background in our capital improvement plan, we do have street improvements to Cherry Street at a cost of $165,000. And Monroe Street, which includes a section of Willow Lane for $225,300. We approved going out to bid for these projects. You could see within your memo, we did reach out to 5 different companies. We only got 1 bid overall for this work. However, the bids that did come in were substantially lower than what the projects were estimated at. Cherry Street came in at $89,000 from Monarch Paving, $86. And then Monroe Street was $146,542 for that work. So what we're proposing before you in the resolution, as we've discussed at the Finance Committee, was that we'd be paying for this work out of reserves from capital fund. However, we would be reimbursing that from interest earned on our 2023 bond that we've accumulated for Locust, Elm, and Washington Street once that project is finished. So with that, and just to note then, the Cherry Street, that would be for Monroe and Willow Lane. For Cherry Street, that would be coming out of the Tax Increment District number 4 fund to pay for that work. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
Motion to approve resolution 1724. My tires will appreciate it on Cherry.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 17-24, awarding the bid for the Mill and Overlay Project to Monarch Paving Company in the amount of $235,627.40. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Just a question, you said this part of this would be paid for out of interest on the bond from before, and I guess just my question is, I know where interest rates were, and I know where they are now, so are we seeing, I guess, more than previously estimated interest or gains on that?
Yes, so since interest rates have gone up, we've received quite a substantial larger amount of interest earnings from various revenue that we have that we're using to invest instead of having to take out debt.
Right.
So originally planned, Monroe Street was going to have a 10-year note borrowing to do it, but because of the interest that we have earned as a result of interest rates going up, we are using that to pay for that instead of taking out a borrowing.
Raising interest rates are actually to our good in this one case.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Cuts both ways.
I'll make a motion to approve, excuse me, the number, that's 20, is it 2417? 1724.
Yep. Second.
Awarding the bid for mill and overlay to Monarch Paving in the amount of $235,627.40.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 17-24 for the Mill and Overlay Project, awarding it to Monarch Paving Company. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, Bailey?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
Pat?
All right,
Dar?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the financial and maintenance agreements between the state of Wisconsin and the city of Prescott for State Highway 35 and US Highway 10. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So I know we've discussed this quite considerably with the DOT, and we discussed it in public comment, but this agreement, the DOT is essentially coming in what is now shaping up to be scheduled for 2029 to redo or reconstruct a mill and overlay of US Highway 10 all the way past 29 and 10 intersection, and then State Highway 35 up to Wakota Street. So what essentially they came before us about, it's over a year and a half ago, I think, at this point, and said that as part of that, they were requiring us to sign a financial and maintenance agreement. So we've gone back and forth trying to negotiate some of the things within there. Ultimately, I think what we have decided is to move forward with those agreements and what's on the agenda before you tonight to consider. Within the agreement, essentially for finance, it would be a cost share for us of $238,000. A majority of this is due to the sidewalk that was previously discussed going up State Highway 35, also a portion of sidewalk on State Highway 29 as well. And then additionally, some of this cost is also for the reconstruction or mill and overlay of the parking downtown that we are responsible for maintaining as well. So with that, I'll turn it over for comments and questions on these agreements.
I just want to say one other thing. So like, in terms of the effort that we went through to try and negotiate with the DOT and find a path forward with them, Maureen, how many times did you reach out to Petrick?
3, I think.
I think we've reached out to so many of our state representatives and different people.
I'd like to get credit for reaching out
Yeah, I
5
forgot, sorry.
times.
Sorry, Pat,
More,
sorry.
so that's 8.
So we're just as frustrated is what I want to say. It's like, we're just as frustrated because this is what all these small towns are having to deal with. And it's the big guy versus the little guy, honestly. So we have to basically take responsibility for maintaining that highway for X amount of years, but.
And if I may follow up on that, in this last week's paper, Representative Petrick posted a nice letter stating basically the effect that how happy he was with the amount of money that was going to be spent on highways. Yet, again, this maintenance agreement is basically a passing the buck from Madison to pay for this on the state DOT program onto the municipalities. So any tax break that occurred in Madison on your state income taxes is now going to be added to your city taxes to cover this. And in a city our size, again, for those who might not know and may watch this on a video or read it in the paper later, we don't have the equipment to do this like larger municipalities do. So granted, nothing may happen. Of course, that's not the case with highways. They always need work. And when it does happen, we're going to have to contract it out to somebody else and pay for it. And again, it was sold as a tax cut in Madison, which was really just a transfer of money, of cost up to us. And we've reached out to them on numerous occasions. And they have even reached out. I have emails of Mr. Petrick's staff reaching out to DOT and getting no response from DOT. And technically, it's not their fault. DOT is following what they were given. This was set up at the state capitol by our representatives who made this decision and then put it onto DOT. So,
And there are people that are
Right.
elected that sit on that committee, so learn who
yep,
they are.
so, again, this is one of those things, there's only so much we can do here, and we need to have people talking to our representatives and telling them some of the stuff that is the decisions that they're making that are affecting us up here. Because a lot of times our hands are tied.
So with that being said, we tried to do the right thing for the city. We did want that sidewalk up to Freedom Park. We want it further than that if possible. Not just to Freedom Park, it's not just about Freedom Park, and also getting kids safely across the street over to IGA. So on that note, I would make a motion to approve, unfortunately, on every level, signing this stupid contract. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
It's my last day. I can
I'll
vote.
second.
There we go.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the financial and maintenance agreements between the state of Wisconsin and the city of Prescott for State Highway 35 and US Highway 10. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
Representatives better not be comfortable in their seats, that's all I gotta say.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is approval of a 36-month agreement between Computer Integration Technologies Incorporated and the City of Prescott for IT managed services. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. Since May 25th, 2021, we have contracted with CIT for our IT managed services at $1,304 a month. This includes site monitoring, network monitoring and management, endpoint monitoring management, and 5 monthly service hours. This agreement ends with CIT on May 26, 2024. So what before you tonight is a 36-month renewal of that agreement at a price point of $1,044 per month. So now you might say, well, that's a $300 savings per month. However, one of the things that is changing is that instead of having those 5 monthly service hours built into each month, we will no longer have that. So they'll be billing us monthly just on an as-use basis. So this can go both ways. Essentially, any given month, sometimes we have nothing for months on end, and sometimes we have multiple issues each month. So basically, moving forward, we're going to just make sure that as we're getting projects come up, we're getting quotes and things like that. So that will kind of be the updated as we're working with CIT on those issues to make sure we're managing costs. Obviously, there are some things. If we have a virus or something going with the computer, we're going to reach out to them right away. But a lot of these projects, we can manage them so that they're not building up and costing us increased costs in our budget as a result. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
I'd make a motion to approve the contract with CIT.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to the approval of the 36-month agreement between CIT and the City of Prescott. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just had a question. So these are the folks that I think would handle this if for some reason we were to get hacked and we were to get seized, locked up, whatever you want to call it, and they tried to hold us for ransom or whatever else to unlock us and things like that. These are the folks who would fix that, and is there
Or if you forgot your password.
Yeah.
simple little things like that, yep, or a worst case scenario. And do we have that covered? To what degree? Just as you read more and more and more
Yeah.
in the news, these things are unfortunately happening because unfortunately people like us open the wrong email and let that stuff in.
Stop clicking on phishing.
I know,
So-
I like to go fishing, but not on my computer.
Yeah, through CIT, we have certain software like Barracuda that has email monitoring, so that certain, firewall, make sure that we keep things out that aren't supposed to get in. We do our IT training, email acknowledgement for like phishing training, as they call it, with our employees and things like that. So they would all handle all those things, and they would be the first person we call if we had some sort of issue with
Okay.
a hack.
So best we can, we're covered, as best we can.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance 02-24, an ordinance adding 635-9D, small box discount stores, first reading. Art?
Yes, this is the first reading. This is addressing small box discount stores within the city, offering just some guidelines of making sure that they are 7,000 feet apart, and also some other guidelines that, after discussion with the Health and Safety Committee, we felt was important, is that ensuring that these small box stores that were to come to the city of Prescott also offer things like a certain dedicated area within the store that has lean proteins and healthy greens and things like that that maybe aren't offered in some of the other small box stores, and also to ensure that there is a customer service phone number available to report complaints, So these are just some ways that we can address the Family Dollar and the Dollar General. I think that my personal opinion is they offer many positive things as far as, cheaper prices for residents who live on a very limited budget. However, there has to be some sort of balance. So I hope that this can offer that balance to our residents. And that, we want people to come to the city and want to put a business within the city. We don't want to negate that, but we want to find a balance in regards to the small box discount stores that do come here.
I'll entertain a motion.
I would approve the first reading. I think we might run into, so in terms of definitions for some of these, I think that we'll just have to see how this first reading goes to see what people's feedback is. But underneath number 2, it says this provision shall not apply to the small box discount retail store that dedicates at least 25% of the sales floor area to lean proteins, healthy grains, fresh or frozen meats. So lean proteins, like, are we talking, I mean,
I hear what you're saying.
does a Lunchable count because it has dairy in it? That's the only thing I'm bringing up,
Right.
is like if that comes up and then we're not happy with something that could move in because they dedicate a 25% to, that's the only thing I'm
Lunchables?
wondering is if we need definitions at all, that's it.
Right.
I'm not,
Definitions or defining what types of foods?
I don't even know how to go about that.
I know.
From a legal standpoint, I don't know how to go about that, but we can see how the first reading goes.
My thoughts are that it's too detailed, and that we're somewhat legislating our way to discourage businesses. If we are not in my opinion, we're not in a supermarket desert or a food desert like some communities are. We do have options, although it may require walking a half a mile up to Patax or things along those lines, or even quarter a mile the other direction to the food pantry. And to put this on a business, we're basically telling what businesses we want and don't want, because unless these businesses want to bend to us to come in here, which is probably unlikely because their business is their business and they're doing what they do, I'm thinking that this is more discouraging than it is trying to be encouraging. That's my thought.
I think it's gonna be hard to enforce. So like if someone could come in and start with 25%, and then let's say they're like, okay, after we built our building and all this stuff, let's say the market hits whatever, and then they're like, we can't afford to maintain this 25 square footage area because this section of retail space isn't earning us any money, or like a portion of the money where it's not worth it. Then what do we do? Because we're not gonna kick somebody out of a private property. So I think that's, and finding somebody if they're in a situation like that, I just think that this is gonna come with complications, that's all I'm saying.
So you guys want to kick it
But I
back
don't-
to ordinance then? Is that
Well,
what you're saying?
planning,
I would
back to
suggest
plan,
that.
does it go to planning, or does it go to health and safety, or does it go?
So,
Health
I
and
guess just
safety.
if I could just jump in, this ordinance was specifically drafted by our city attorney. So if there's language, things you want, and we have to have a public hearing, so I guess just to keep that in mind, so every time, if we change it, we keep having to go through public hearings, which is gonna, so if we're not liking the language or don't want to have it, I guess that's one thing, but if there's specific things you want us to add, it does complicate things, just because then our city attorney has to kind of weigh in on if those are actually things we can keep in there, and maybe it's a bigger question of a workshop or something like that that would have to happen if we want to add a whole bunch of things that
Are
need to
there
go
any
in
other
there.
cities that are doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's a whole list.
There's a list of them, I didn't see it, sorry.
So we are only the second city in the state of Wisconsin that would have
Second.
an ordinance like this on our books based on the review that we've done. So that's been one of the discussions point at Planning Commission and at Health and Safety, was that we will have a relatively new ordinance that hasn't been tested in any sort of court case before or anything like that. So, and I know that's one of the questions or issues that was brought up by Tom Haas at our Plan Commission public hearing. You raised that if we're gonna have this go before, if somebody comes in and wants to question it and bring it to court, we would be, and there aren't any sort of, tried or true cases to rely on for, that would be something that we would have to do if we wanna actually go through that.
Just because there's no case law on it doesn't mean that that's automatically how it's gonna go if it goes to court.
Correct.
But the only thing I have concerns about is it gonna impact people that are gonna wanna come and look at the Sears property? Because if we start being viewed as like kind of difficult, that's the only thing I get concerned about, I don't know.
I would-
I don't know.
I would find
I love capitalism too,
believe, but-
so,
Well, I think that was the original point of this new ordinance, was to specifically discourage another Dollar General from being in the Sears Park, right?
That's
Well, I
what
don't
I
think
have
it's
some
zoned.
problems with legally. I think that it's hard for me to agree that we would put an ordinance specifically for a business with a name.
I misspoke, just a small box discount store.
Like-
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I meant to say small box discount store. You know,
Yeah.
The point of this is to discourage another small box discount store, right down the street again from the two that we already have. I think that's the whole point of this, so.
well, I do know that Dollar General is currently, I think, going through litigation right now for pricing stuff, so.
They are, yeah.
So did the attorney have anything like free enterprise? He's stepping on free enterprise, that if you can buy the land, and as long as you meet all the requirements?
Specifically, this is being reviewed through looking at a public health and safety perspective, not through, so that's really what this falls under, is why other communities and why this type of ordinance is even out there. So that would be what they would be relying on in terms of this ordinance that's before you.
But I mean, if you go to just about any town the size of ours or bigger, you can't go 1,000 feet without seeing all three of those. And I haven't ever heard anybody complain about them and why they're there and things like that, so.
Well, that's why this ordinance was drafted, because we had a lot of complaints.
Well, I understand we had a lot of complaints
Oh, you just said you never heard any complaint.
from other cities,
Oh.
only from this one.
Oh, I see.
Cumberland's got 3 in a row.
And I would struggle to say that we got, so quote unquote, a lot of complaints. I heard one comment from a neighbor who, was like, well, why can't we get this? I'm like, well, we can't get this because they don't want to come here. Because the numbers of our traffic or whatever else don't work for their model, because they know their model and they know their numbers. I would hate for something if an Aldi, let's say, which is, in some cases, a discount box store.
They would be immune though because it says 25% or less.
Right.
It has fresh produce.
But, or if it were, I don't know, maybe if it were a discount hardware store, or a discount parts store, or something along those lines that might not fit in there, we may want that. I don't like saying that we don't want a business. If the business wants to take the chance and invest in our community, and then if people don't like it, then they don't have to shop there. But to start saying we don't want stuff, I think it sets a bad precedent, and that's just where I sit on it. I would not I would not approve this. I would vote no when the time comes if I were here. There was some vocal people saying, well, we don't need another, we don't need this, we don't need that, we can't get the one staffed. Well, you know what, then don't go shop there. But
So I guess before you tonight, Health and Safety Review, this passed it 3-0. Plan Commission Review, it passed it 6-0. So I would say if you're looking at this and basically aren't liking it, that I would, your vote, if you want to send it back, that would be the only, I guess, caveat I would also say is that we're also asking for an ordinance to be relooked at by committees that already have passed these 3-0 and 6-0.
But that's why we get the final say.
That's true, so that's what I'm saying.
And I'm
Instead
only,
of
I'm
passing
only
it
one
back.
of, I'm only one of 6, so.
Well, you could, somebody could make a motion and,
I will make a motion to approve ordinance 635-9D, small box discount stores, to a second reading.
And I'll second that motion.
okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 02-24. Is there any other discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay.
Maybe for the sake of this vote, do a roll call vote, just so I
Okay.
don't know if it was
Bailey?
3-3.
Nay.
Maureen?
Nay.
Pat?
Nay.
Dar?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
You're the split vote, Ron.
It's a
We've
pretty-
had that in a while.
It's a tiebreaker.
Tension's on.
I'll vote A
First,
for the
just,
first reading.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was yay or nay?
Pardon me?
Yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay.
Thumbs up.
Got it.
Say.
Okay. Good discussion.
Thank you for the discussion.
Next item on the agenda is ordinance 03-24, an ordinance to amend city ordinance, chapter 635 zoning, section 635-21I, minimum yards, first reading.
I'm going to let Matt take that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Bear. So, in looking at our zoning, when we were reviewing the whole zoning code, one of the things that we wanted to have, basically within our C1, if you look at the property lines, we're already having 0-yard setbacks everywhere else if they're meeting fireproof construction. As you know, as everybody knows, all the buildings are butted up against each other. So just to continue that, we wanted to look at what's already in place, and in lot in place, we have 5 to 0-yard setbacks in the rear already. So having the 25-foot yard rear setback did not make any sense, so what's before you is changing that to a 0 rear yard setback for a C1 district. Unless it's a non-fireproof construction, then it would have to meet the minimum 10-foot building code requirement. So that I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
It makes sense if we're
Yeah.
already not. So I guess I would make a motion to approve the ordinance. I gotta scroll back up here.
Amendment 2.
Thank you.
Amendment 2.
Amendment 2, so 424
And 320.
and 324, sorry, both of them.
I'll second.
First reading.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 630,
Yeah.
03-24 and 04-24 to amend chapter 635 zoning, 635-21-I, and 635-55G, both of the first reading. Correct?
That should be resolution 324 and 424.
It says ordinance.
No ordinance.
Ordinance. It's in the ordinance.
It's number 8 and 9. Or no,
Oh,
I'm
9 and
sorry,
10.
9 and 10.
10.
Thank you, Rochelle.
We've not had so many on one agenda before.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 18-24, approving the purchase agreement with Midwest Machinery for $125,643 from the capital fund.
Thank you, Bear. So at the March 20th, 2024 Finance Committee, we discussed 3 different options. The Public Works Department is taking on a lot more projects internally, and that includes curb and gutter replacement, sidewalk removal and additions, and storm sewer repairs. For 2024, we have scheduled Cherry Street, Kenny Street, and Monroe Street, all within that scope of work. So after reviewing 3 different options, or I should say Public Works requested then that we trade in our current excavator for a larger size, and then the purchase of a new John Deere 325G compact track loader. So after the Finance Committee reviewed 3 different options, they recommended purchasing outright those rather than leasing this equipment. So before you tonight is that equipment with that trade-in for a total of $125,643.36. One thing to note is currently we have an unaudited, unrestricted balance in our capital fund of $383,258. So we'd be using those reserves to pay for this equipment. Then would draw down upon that balance. So I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 1824.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 1824, approving the purchase agreement for Midwest Machinery for $125,643. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to point out again, I think you said it, that the amount of work that our city crew is able to do, which saves us money having to put that work out to bid to other people,
Is unreal.
is that, I wish, I don't know if you have it, but it sure be nice to know what your time frame for this paying for itself, and maybe it already has with what we've done in the last couple of years on some of these jobs, that this expense does wind up saving us money, or has saved us money in the long run, on work that has to be done on roads and water parks and water things and stuff like that. So, again, I think it's well spent. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, Bailey?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Dar?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Did we skip agreement with Asphalt Plus?
No, that was in the consent agenda.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, I'll forgive you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is for your consideration to Planning Commission, the nomination of Bailey Rona. So we'll be bringing that back to the next meeting, correct?
Correct.
Do we need to vote on that?
No.
Okay. So thank you for stepping up to that, Bailey.
Yep.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, Resolution 19-24, commending Alderperson Pat Knox for dedicated service to the city of Prescott. I'll read the resolution. Whereas Councilmember Pat Knox was elected by his constituents to serve as representative for Ward 5 of the city of Prescott, and whereas Councilmember Pat Knox has displayed true dedication to his position, outstanding leadership, and sincere concern for all citizens of the city of Prescott, and devotion for the common good of Prescott. Now therefore, upon motion duly made and seconded and passed by majority vote, be it resolved the city of Prescott as follows. Pat Knox is commended for the years of dedicated service you have given to the city of Prescott and its residents, and we wish you all health and success in all your endeavors.
Yay.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 19-24.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 19-24. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 20-24, a resolution commending Alderperson Bailey Rona for her dedicated service to the city of Prescott. Whereas Councilmember Bailey Rona was elected by her constituents to serve at-large representative of the city of Prescott, and Bailey has displayed true dedication to her position, outstanding leadership, sincere concern for all the citizens of the city of Prescott, and devotion for the common good of Prescott. Now therefore, A motion duly made and seconded and passed by majority vote. Be it resolved by the City Council of Prescott as follows. Bailey Rona is commended for the years of dedicated service you have given to the city, and Prescott and its residents. We wish you good health and success in all your endeavors. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 20-20.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 20-24. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Thank
can
you.
vote for myself, right?
Thank you, guys.
Second at my motion. Is that?
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is other business. We do have an organizational meeting Tuesday, April 16th at 5:30 right here. Any other business?
Just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Bailey.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're repping tonight for Full River Trails, so
Yeah.
we did a lot. The riverfront, even though I know everyone has different opinions about riverfront stuff, but we did a lot.
Yeah.
And you're gonna continue on the planning commission.
Yeah, you guys aren't getting rid of me quite yet.
Everybody, no, we're not gonna get a break.
Yeah.
And there's so many other people that are working on parks, and it's been
Done
a
a
great
lot.
asset for our city.
Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is closed session. Need a motion?
Motion to go into closed session.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion, a second to go into closed session. Bailey?
aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Dar?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lindsay? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming.